finds makes a great end, doesn't he? And today's review is Spectre.
映画に行きたい気分です。楽しみにしています。
Spectre, the next in the James Bond series, and Daniel Craig looks a little bit tired and worn in this film. He doesn't seem to be giving it his full attention, but like he did in the other three. But maybe I'm just reading too much into what I'm seeing. This is a great movie. If you liked the James Bond of the 1960s, in every aspect where Spectre's brought into these films, you see it come up over and over. A basic aspect from the original James Bonds in the 1960s, where they deal with Spectre on a movie by movie by movie basis throughout the decade. You will notice that happen throughout this movie. First you have Dr. No type of appearance here, with Bond getting into the Spectre's lair, and there's this giant asteroid instead of a big pane of glass with fish behind it. And then the voice in the background, then Dr. No suddenly appears. Well, Ernest Stravel Blofeld suddenly appears instead. And they go to the next scene. It's there's that horrific battle on the train and from Russia with Love, remember that? And Red Grant was trying to kill James Bond on the train with a garrote wire around his neck. Well, this same type of thing occurs here. It's another train again. It's in the southern part of, I think it's between maybe Istanbul, Turkey, that type of train. And Bond's all dressed up and he's rescuing the girl. Well, it's the same type of scene there, and that deals with Spectre as well. Plus, you notice that Spectre's base is somewhat like the volcano in You Only Live Twice, and that's Spectre, and the fluffy white cat. The fluffy white cat, she's back in this one again. Blofeld's white cat. Only Blofeld has hair this time. That's a major difference. The scar down the face, which Donald Pleasance had shown in You Only Live Twice. In this movie, Spectre, you actually see how the explosion that actually caused that scar. And when in Dr. No, when James Bond and the girl are brought into the Dr. No's lair, and the white Chinese women presented themselves as these great hosts, and they gave them food and drink and tea and put them in this like a hotel setting, but they were still prisoners. That's here as well. It's different people, but same setup. And then you remember in on Her Majesty's Secret Service, when George Lazenby played James Bond, there was that terrific, was it like a hotel resort on top of the mountains in the ski resort area? Well, that's back as well. It's been refurbished. It now has, it's called thermal glass to keep the place warm. It's more glass now than steel structure that it used to be on Her Majesty's Secret Service. And the Aston Martin is back. It battles wits with a Ferrari. Since it was a new prototype, it wasn't working exactly the way it should. But one aspect, the flamethrower, that was pretty badass, burning up the follower's car, or the Ferrari, and then parachuting out of the car to safety, and the Aston Martin ends up in the drink, sinking to the bottom. So Oh yeah, and from Goldfinger, remember Goldfinger's old antique Rolls Royce? That's back in here as well. He picks up the girl and Bond and takes them to Blofeld's lair. It's just incredible. So every aspect of wherever Spectre's mentioned in the 1960s, you see it form in this movie. It was so well crafted, so well put together. All these little elements lifted from the other movies and put in this movie and all joined together. I just love that part. This movie's about Bond, and he's on his last orders from M, who issued them at her death through V taped message that was sent to Bond, which he watched on his computer. She asked him to kill a certain man, and so he went at the beginning of this movie to kill this man, and from this man he learns that there's a name of some type of enemy guy who's running things, and so he goes off and he tries to find this guy, and he ends up with the man that he had shot in the leg and taken prisoner before. He ends up meeting him again and finding out about Spectre being the instrument in all the other battles this modern day Bond has had in the past, and being responsible for the women that he loved dying. And so this eventually leads to the discovery of Spectre trying to take over the Earth as becoming the international spy agency to protect the planet from terrorists, and is secretly being run by Spectre, and they're trying to get implement their own style of doing things inside each of the governments of the world so that they can spy on these governments and run these governments. And that's the whole plot here. There isn't any nuclear weapons to protect the Earth from or anything like that. It's just internal security, spying on the people, taking over the governments, and Bond has to get in there and stop that. But not only Bond, Ralph Fiennes does a splendid job in here. Bond's old teammates Q are there, and Moneypenny in there to help him. Spectacular movie, well written. It's more relaxed than the other Bonds. There is there's a lot of action, but a little bit toned down than what you're used to seeing. And also in the 1970s they had brought back Blofeld again to battle Bond, as Bond was played by Roger Moore at that time, visiting the grave of his wife, and Blofeld showing up trying to kill him, and then there's this spectacular helicopter chase, and Bond kills Blofeld with the helicopter. This reference is also in this movie at the end. Blofeld does not die in this. He is taken prisoner, but you never know, he just might escape in the future. Alright, this is part 1 of the review. Part 2 covers more of the film and more into the music in the next video. Do I recommend Spectre? Of course, especially if you're following the Bond series, and especially if you're following Daniel Craig's acting as James Bond.